Hello, students. This is Tulika and I am back with a narration of Albert Einstein at School, written by Patrick Pringle. So, please do like, share, and subscribe if you like my narration. And if you want detailed explanation of this chapter, please go visit my another channel where I do the detailed explanation of these particular chapters. You'll get summary as well and a few important questions. So, carrying on with this chapter, before reading this chapter, we have something about this chapter written over here. Albert Einstein, 1879 to 1955, is regarded as the greatest physicist since Newton. In the following extract from the young Einstein, the well known biographer Patrick Pringle describes the circumstances which led to Albert Einstein's expulsion from a German school. The expulsion is here a turning point. Now, reading the chapter, in what year, Einstein asked the history teacher, did the Prussians defeat the French at Waterloo? I don't know, sir. Why don't you know? You have been told it often enough. I must have forgotten. Did you ever try to learn? Asked Mr. Brown. No, sir, Albert replied with his usual unthinking honesty. Why not? I can't see any point in learning dates. One can always look them up in a book. Mr. Brown was speechless for a few moments. You amaze me, Einstein, he said at last. Don't you realize that one can always look most things up in books? That applies to all the facts you learn at school. Yes, sir. Then I suppose you don't see any point in learning facts. Frankly, sir, I don't, said Albert. Then you don't believe in education at all. Oh, yes, sir, I do. I don't think learning fact is education. In that case, said the history teacher with heavy sarcasm, perhaps you will be so kind as to tell the class the Einstein theory of education. Albert flushed. I think it's not fact that matters, but ideas, he said. I don't see the point in learning the dates of battles, or even which of the enemies killed more men. I would be more interested in learning why those soldiers were trying to kill each other. That's enough. Mr. Brown's eyes were cold and cruel. We don't want a lecture. We don't want a lecture from you, Einstein. You will stay in for an extra period today, although I don't imagine it will do you much good. It won't do the school any good either. You are a disgrace. I don't know why you continue to come. It's not my wish, sir, Albert pointed out. Then you are an ungrateful boy and ought to be ashamed of yourself. I suggest you ask your father to take you away. Albert felt miserable when he left school that afternoon. Not that it had been a bad day, most days were bad now. Anyway, but because he had to go back to the hateful place in the next morning. He only wished his father would take him away, but there was no point in even asking. He knew what the answer would be. He would have to stay until he had taken his diploma. Going back to his lodging did not cheer him up. His father had so little money to spare that Albert had been found a room in one of the poorest quarters of Munich. He did not mind the bad food and lack of comfort, or even the dirt and squalor, but he hated the atmosphere of slum violence. His landlady beats her children regularly, and every Saturday her husband came drunk and beat her. But at least you have a room of your own, which is more than I can say, said Yuri when he called round in the evening. At least you live among civilized human beings, even if they are all poor students, said Albert. They are not all civilized, Yuri replied. Did you not hear that one of them was killed last week in a duel? And what What happened to the one who killed him? Nothing, of course. He is even proud of it. His only worry is that the authorities have told him not to fight any more duels. He's upset about this because he hasn't a single scar on his face to wear for the rest of his life as a badge of honor. Oh, exclaimed Albert. And these are the students? Well, you will be a student one day, said Yuri. I doubt it, said Albert glumly, which means sadly. I don't think I will ever pass the exam for the school diploma. He told his cousin Elsa the same next time she came to Munich. Normally, she lived in Berlin, where her father had a business. I'm sure you could learn enough to pass the exams, Albert, if you tried, she said. I know lots of boys who are much more stupid than you are. You get though. They say you don't have to know anything. You don't have to understand what you are taught. Just be able to repeat it in the exams. That's the whole trouble, said Albert. I'm no good at learning things by heart. You don't need to be good at it. Anyone can learn like a parrot. You just don't try. And yet, I always see you with a book under your arm, added Elsa. What is the one you're reading? A book on geology? Geology, rocks, and things. You learned that? No. We have hardly any science at school. Then why are you studying it? Because I like it. Isn't that a good enough reason? Elsa sighed. You're right, of course, Albert, she said. But it won't help you with your diploma. Apart from books on science, his only comfort was music, and he played his violin regularly until his landlady asked him to stop. That's wailing gets on my nerves, she said. There's enough noise in this house, with all the kids howling. Albert was tempted to point out that most of the time it was she who made them howl, but he decided it was better to say nothing. I must get away from here, he told Yuri. After 6 months alone in Munich, it is absurd that I should go on like this. In the end, it will turn out I have been wasting my father's money and everyone's time. It will be better for all if I stop now. And then, what will you do? Yuri asked. I don't know. If I go to Milan, I am afraid my father will send me back, unless his eyes gleamed with a sudden idea. Yuri, do you know any friendly doctor? I know a lot of medical students, and some of them are friendly, said Yuri. Doctor? No, I have never had enough money to go to one. Why? Suppose, said Albert, that I had a nervous breakdown. Suppose a doctor would say it's bad for me to go to school, and I need to get right away from it. I can't imagine a doctor saying that, said Yuri. I must try, said Albert, to find a doctor who specializes in nerves. There are plenty of them, Yuri told him. He hesitated for a moment and then added, rather reluctantly, I will ask some of the students if they know one, if you like. Will you? Oh, thank you, Yuri. Albert's eyes were shining. Wait a moment. I haven't found one yet. Oh, but you will. And if I do, I don't know if he'll be willing to help you. Ah, he will. He will, declared Albert. I am going to have a real nervous breakdown to make it easier for him. He laughed merrily. I have never seen you looking less nervous, remarked Yuri. A day or two at school will soon put that right, Albert assured him. Certainly, he had lost his high spirit when Yuri saw him next. I can't stand it any longer, he said. I really shall have a nervous breakdown that will satisfy any doctor. Keep it up then, said Yuri. I have found a doctor for you. You have? Albert's face lit up. Oh, good. When can I see him? I have an appointment for you for tomorrow evening, Yuri said. Here's the address. He handed Albert a piece of paper. Dr. Ernest Whale. Is he a specialist in nervous troubles? asked Albert. Not exactly, Yuri admitted. As a matter of fact, he only qualified as a doctor last week. You may even be his first patient. You know him as a student then. I have known Ernest for years. Yuri hesitated for a moment. He is not a fool, he warned Albert. What do you mean? Don't try to pull the wool over his eyes. That's all. Be frank with him. But don't pretend you have got what you haven't. Not that you would deceive anyone. Yuri added, you are the world's worst liar. Albert spent the next day wondering what to tell the doctor. When the time arrived for his appointment, he had worried over it so much that he really was quite nervous. I don't really know how to describe my trouble, Dr. Vale, he began. Don't try, said the young doctor with a friendly smile. Yuri has already given me a history of the case. Oh, what did he say? Only that you want me to think you have had a nervous breakdown and say that you must not go back to that school. Oh dear, Albert's face fell. He shouldn't have told you that. Why not? Isn't it true then? Yes, that's the trouble. Now you will say there's nothing wrong with me and you will tell me to go back to school. Don't be too sure of that, said the doctor. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure you are in a nervous state about that school. But I haven't told you anything about it, said Albert. Why, if how can you know that? Because you wouldn't have come to see me about this if you hadn't been pretty close to a nervous breakdown. That's why. Now, said the doctor briskly, if I certify that you have had a nervous breakdown and must stay away from school for a while, what will you do? I'll go to Italy, said Albert, to Milan, where my parents are. And what will you do there? I'll try to get into an Italian college or institution. How can you without a diploma? I'll ask my mathematics teacher to give me something about my work, and perhaps that will be enough. I have learned all the maths they teach at school and a bit more, he added when Dr. Vale looked doubtful. Well, it's up to you, he said. I doubt if it will come off, but I can see you're not doing yourself or anyone else much good by staying here. How long would you like me to say you should stay away from school? Would 6 months be all right? This is very kind of you. It's nothing. I have only just stopped being a student myself, so I know how you feel. Here you are. Dr. Vale handed him the certificate and the best of luck. How much? Nothing. If you have anything to spare, invite Yuri to a meal. He's a good friend of mine, and yours too, I think. Albert had no money to spare, but he pretended he had and took Yuri out to supper. Isn't it wonderful? He said after showing Yuri the certificate. Yes, it's fine, Yuri agreed. 6 months is a good period. This way, you won't actually be leaving the school. So, if the worst comes to the worst, you will be able to come back and carry on for your diploma. I'll never go back to that place, Albert assured him. I'm going to take this certificate to the head teacher tomorrow, and that will be the end of it. Don't forget to get a reference in writing from your mathematics teacher first, Yuri reminded him. Mr. Coach willingly gave Albert the reference he wanted. If I say I can't teach you anymore and probably you will soon be able to teach me, will that be all right? He asked. That's saying too much, sir, said Albert. It's only the truth, but all right. I'll put it more seriously. It was still a glowing reference, and Mr. Coach made the point that Albert was ready immediately to enter a college or institution for the study of higher mathematics. I'm sorry you are leaving us. Although you're wasting your time in my class, he said. It's almost the only class where I'm not wasting my time, said Albert. But how did you know I'm leaving, sir? You wouldn't have asked me for this reference otherwise. I thought you would wonder. There's nothing to wonder about, Einstein. I knew you were going to leave before you know yourself. Albert was puzzled. teacher mean? He soon found out. Before he had a chance to ask for an interview with the head teacher, he was summoned to the head's room. Well, it saves me the trouble from having to wait an hour or two outside, he thought. He hardly bothered to wonder why he had been sent for, but vaguely supposed he was to be punished again for bad work and laziness. Well, he had finished with punishment. I'm not going to punish you, the head teacher said, to Albert's surprise. Your work is terrible, and I'm not prepared to have you here any longer. Einstein, I want you to leave the school now. Leave school now? Repeated Albert, dazed. That is what I said. You mean, said Albert, that I'm to be expelled? You can take it that way if you wish, Einstein. The head teacher was not menacing words. The simplest thing will be for you to go to your own accord, and then the question won't arise. But, said Albert, what crime have I committed? Your presence in the classroom makes it impossible for the teacher to teach and for the other pupils to learn. You refuse to learn. You are in always a constant rebellion, and no serious work can be done while you are there. Albert felt the medical certificate almost burning a hole in his pocket. I was going to leave anyway, he said. Then we are in agreement at least, Einstein. The head said. For a moment, Albert was tempted to tell the man what he thought of him and of his school. Then he stopped himself. Without another word, holding his head high, he stalked out. Shut the door after you, shouted the head. Albert ignored him. He walked straight on, out of the school, where he had spent 5 miserable years without turning his head to give it a last look. Could not think of anyone he wanted to say goodbye to. Indeed, Yuri was almost the only person in Munich he felt like seeing before he left the town he had come to hate almost as much as the school. Elsa was back in Berlin, and he had no other real friends. Goodbye and good luck, said Yuri when he left. You're going to be to a wonderful country, I think. I hope you will be happier there. So that's all for the chapter. I have narrated the whole chapter. So if you like my video, then please do like, share, and subscribe. Please support my channel. I do really need your support. Please. That's all for today. Thank you very much.